Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. Happy Monday. Kelsey, how are you doing today on this fine Memorial Day?
Yes, doing really well. Got my beach day in this weekend. Had to
Mm.
work some. Had an audition. Um,
Oh,
good, good, busy Memorial Day weekend. How are you doing, Dill?
good. Also busy. I am not going to the beach at all because I am packing boxes. I have some over here. I'm not going to
Ah,
tilt my camera because I don't want to unplug, but I've got all the boxes right here. I've just been packing city, pack city. I feel
yeah.
like Pac-Man. It is a lot, and it's the worst weather to be packing indoors in the city. For anyone who's never lived in New York City, summer in the city, as beautiful as it is to like walk around Central Park, literally everywhere else it sucks because it's like the streets, if you have garbage on the streets smell extra bad, and
hmm
your apartments usually get very, very overheated if you don't have central air. Even if you have a unit,
hmm
it only goes so far. So summer in the city, at least weather wise, is pretty miserable. So it's like we're kind of finally dipping our toe into that kind of weather. And I have to pack up all these boxes and do all this heavy lifting and get ready to move on Wednesday. It's a lot, but I am eating my barbecue, my lobster rolls still at the same time, trying to make it feel like Memorial Day, even though I'm stuck inside.
Yeah.
But Kels, I've seen some good movies lately, which is the
Oh,
big
yeah.
plus. Yeah, let me ask you though, what is the best thing you watched this week, and then I'll tell you about the movies I've seen.
I haven't watched anything crazy,
Mm,
but what I will say is that I'm excited that I'm finally seeing Challengers tomorrow night. So I imagine next week that's what I'll be talking about mostly because
nice.
I don't know what's taking me so long, but I'm finally seeing it and that's what I'm excited most to see. But what have you seen, Dill?
Well, okay, so first off, I've been watching movies for Picture This because we're recording this week, and those movies are all just so good from 1957. But I also saw two movies in theaters, and I'm seeing a third one in theaters. Hopefully today, if I have 2 hours to get out of packing. Um, I saw the TV Glow, which is just one of
Mm,
the coolest, most interesting movies I've seen in a long time. I'm not even going to talk about it because I'm going to do a review on the channel, but it is just one of those movies that I feel like years from now, a lot of people are going to be like, damn, I wish I had seen that. Or damn, like, I didn't realize how good that, like, one of those, like, not cult hits because it's not like
mm.
schlocky in that way, but one of those films that I think is going to be one of the great films we talk about 10, 15 years from now that people are going to regret not getting around to. So this is my recommendation for everyone to go get around to that one. And then Furiosa, I was very
Mm.
not pessimistic, but not certainly optimistic because prequels are
Okay.
tough. Prequels are tough as is, and then a prequel to one of the greatest movies ever made is even tougher. And a spin-off character that's not the main character of the franchise, but it was so good. And Anya
Okay.
Taylor-Joy is amazing, and Chris Hemsworth probably his best performance I've ever seen. So, if you like action, if you're a big feminist, Furiosa, way to go. That is awesome. Especially for you, Kels, because I know you're a
Do I have
mega.
to watch the other Mad Max movies to
No, so
get
this
what's
is
going
this is
on
a
in
this is a
Furiosa?
this is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. Now, if you've seen Mad Max Fury Road, it could enhance some of the stuff in the prequel, but because the prequel comes first, you can just watch the prequel and then go watch Mad Max Fury Road. Actually, Mad Max Fury Road, they do like a montage during the credits. So it's like one of those things where you could just like go in completely blind, watch the movie, and then go watch Fury Road. You don't need to see the first three Mad Max movies. It's a totally separate. I mean, it is a connected thing, but it's very much tonally and stylistically, and like the actors different. So it's really just Furiosa and Fury Road are the two I would recommend watching. The other three are good, but it's that story, that character Furiosa is only in Fury Road. So
Gotcha.
really, really great though. It's long, and I didn't like it as much as Fury Road, but it is very good. And
Okay.
then I'm going to see Hitman, hopefully, either today or tomorrow, or if I
The Glenn Powell movie?
the Glenn Powell movie. Yep.
I thought
So
that was coming out on Netflix. It's
it
coming out
is,
in theaters
but
as well?
New York City gets everything. Yeah, so the Paris Theater in New York City, for those listening, the Paris Theater is Netflix's theater, so that's where Netflix movies run before they hit
Ah,
Netflix. And because they want to qualify for awards and stuff, you have to have at least a 7-day theatrical run. So that's their way of like qualifying for Oscars. But we're lucky
gotcha.
because on the East Coast we get it. In California, I believe they're getting it too. So I'm very excited to see that as well. But yeah, I've seen a lot of good stuff lately, so that's exciting. And I've been rewatching the Star Wars prequels after watching the first one for Frame Rec, so it's like it's always a good time for those. All right, we don't have a ton of time, so like we don't have a ton of episodes to talk about. But
Yeah.
Kelsey, do you want to get into these 10 season 5 episodes, or should I say like 3 season 5 episodes and 7 totally irrelevant, totally terrible? Um, okay. No,
You know,
yeah,
yeah, Dill. People have been saying it from the beginning that like the first season's great, season two's kind of a mixed bag, 3 and 4, you get the the Phoenix Saga stuff, whatever. Regardless of who you talk to, everyone says that season 5 is bad. And everyone that I talked to, I can confirm was right. Like
yeah.
season 5 is definitely just the messiest, the most useless, um
Yeah, I think
not
the
great.
problem is that it is rushed because they wanted to just like get 10 more episodes out. They said like, "Oh no, we're continuing the series, but then this is going to be the last season." So you have the problem where you were trying to like tie up a lot of loose threads in season 4, and then season 5 rolls around and it's like, "Oh, we got to throw out 10 more, but we can't completely stray off the path because this is what we want our ending to be." And I think the
Mhm.
ending is solid, but it's like it doesn't
Mm.
feel like those 9 episodes build to that ending very well. And it
Yeah.
just doesn't seem like those 9 episodes are given the amount of care because they're rushed. Like the animation looks real bad.
Yeah.
The sound is real bad. Theme song, I know you like the variation of it, but like I'm not the biggest fan of the shortened beat. Like there's just it's
Sure.
very clearly cut. There are corners cut, which is
Mhm.
very evident in in the show in the season 5, especially looking at the other 4 seasons, especially looking at the new season we're gonna watch. Like there's a very clear, distinct separation there. But I do think the concepts for some of the episodes are interesting. Like I think the bear outlines and like the ideas of them are good. It's just the execution falls flat because of writing or animation or sound or whatever. Like there's some good episodes where I'm like, oh, this would be a really interesting like 2 or 3 parter where you could really flesh it out. But I also the
Mhm.
problem is with 20 minutes, it's like you kind of get the short end of the stick for a lot of it. But
Right. So let's dive right in. We
mhm.
start off this season with a two-parter, the Phalanx Covenant, parts 1 and 2, or episodes 1 and 2. And honestly, comparatively to the rest of the season, Dill, these 2 episodes are probably the strongest in my
Yes,
mind.
I
This
agree.
this storyline, the fact that like Hank is spearheading it and is working with a member of the Phalanx who's goes by the name of Warlock. I really like the dynamic between these 2 characters because they kind of have this like very softness to both of them where they don't really want to use either of their powers for evil. Like obviously Hank is this huge beast who wouldn't hurt a fly, and then Self, he refers to himself as Self. He kind of Warlock talks in the third person the entire time, so he's like Self, query, and whenever he wants to like ask a question, and he's like Self's friend Hank. And I just thought that this character was like super endearing. I'm sure like he's pretty polarizing. You either find him endearing or incredibly annoying,
Mhm.
but I liked him a lot. I did look into what his story is in the comics, and it's basically what we see played out in the episodes where he departs from the Phalanx, crash lands on Earth, and that's when the Phalanx come looking for him and like taking over Earth. But also in the comics, at some point, Warlock does help defeat Ultron, which I thought was interesting, being that they're both like kind of androidy, robotic
Mhm.
type of people. And then what's also interesting about these 2 episodes is that our heroes have to team up with Mr. Sinister
Yeah.
because he doesn't want the world getting taken over, and later on they have to bring Magneto into it as well. So it's kind of like you're seeing all different kinds of mutants joining together so that this entity doesn't take over, humans and mutants alike.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, these were probably the 2 strongest
Yeah.
storylines that we got in this season.
And I think this is the one episode or series of episodes where I felt like the animation wasn't completely tanking yet. Like I feel like they were
Mm,
still, I don't know, maybe this was delayed from another season. I don't remember. But I think these all were released when they were released. I'm not sure. But I do think
oh,
the
I'll tell you.
quality is not terrible yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's kicking off a season, so we're not necessarily tired of the new style yet either. Maybe might
yeah.
be it, but I thought the design of what was it called? The Phalanx was pretty, or Warlock was really nice as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, a lot of the cool like yellow and black colors as well with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
going. Yeah,
yeah.
that was a cool aesthetic choice, but yeah,
Honestly, the first thing that I noticed about the animation, Dill, was, like, Professor X. Like, I was like, "This guy looks like handsome Squidward," when his, like,
yes,
jawline's, like, all
yeah,
chiseled and, like, his, like, mouth
I'm
is
kidding, dude.
pouting. I was like, it's basically like the animation just made, like, the men, like, a lot. Sorry, I've, like, burps caught in my throat. The men just got a lot more angular and, like, rigid, and I felt like they, like, really smoothed out, like, our female characters.
Mm,
Like, Storm's hair was much smoother.
yeah,
Rogue's hair was much smoother. They obviously, like,
Jubilee is a
enhanced.
different race.
Right, things like that. She got a whole new look, like, halfway through these episodes, and that's why I started keeping track of, like, when they were actually released, because I was like, "Wait, they just aged Jubilee, like, 3 years in a span of, like, 1 episode." So,
Right.
like, that was crazy.
Mhm.
Um, our next, 2 episodes 3 and 4, are a two-parter as well called Stormfront. This is a Storm, centered episode about her needing to go help, a guy named Archon. Did I put his
Archon, yeah.
Archon. Archon on the planet of Palmakis. So basically they needed Storm's powers to, like, right their weather problems that they were happening there, but, like, really he just wanted, like, an empress to rule with him, and he turned out being a piece of shit and kind of like a dictator and treating the people who live there like slaves.
Mm,
And so we kind of got this, like, different side of Storm in this episode, where she kind of has this moment in one of the 2 episodes where she's like, "I've spent my entire life as an X-Man. I've sacrificed, like, time and time again. I make sacrifices on a planet that I'm not accepted in. I'm making this one choice for me to, like, have this, what she believes is going to be a romantic relationship with this guy." And Logan's, like, not having it. He was like, "No, this isn't Storm. We have to save her. Like, something's not right here." And yeah, he ended up being right. But I also was, like, expecting at some point for there to be some kind of reveal where Storm was, like, under some kind of trance or spell, or, there was a reason why she was, like, impulsively deciding to be in a relationship with this guy who she had just met. And I was like, I agreed with Logan at first. I was like, "This is not the Storm I know at all. Like, this is
yeah.
crazy." But then after hearing, like, her piece, I was like, you know what? Yeah, like, I guess once in a while you just have to make a choice for you and put yourself first and be a
Well,
little selfish.
and the other thing is after you say that whole spiel, like Storm says that whole spiel, it's like,
Mhm.
great. So now you're making it about her agency as a woman wanting to make her own decisions in relationships, not being dictated by other people. But then he ends up being a bad guy. So
Right.
then it's like, oh, wrong, Storm, wrong. You should have listened to your friends, and that kind of defeats the whole female empowerment angle as well, because it's like, nope,
Right.
she was in over her head. And it's like it doesn't make her seem that much more powerful. Obviously, she's the one who stands up to him, which kind of helps it. But it's also
Mhm.
like, no, like it would have been cool if like he was just like a good guy.
Right.
Which I know it doesn't aid any drama, but it's kind of that thing where it's like you give her this big moment to say like, no, I want to make my own decisions. I haven't had anything for me, and then it's like, just kidding, he's not for you, haha.
Right.
It just felt like a bad way to twist that empowerment angle, I thought.
Yeah, because it really does kind of, like, diminish everything that she had just
Mhm.
said. So, anyway, uh, listen, we didn't go into this season expecting much. What I did like about this episode was that it had some good Jubilee representation. I felt that this season has a lot of Jubilee all over it, which
Mm,
is, like, what we've kind of been waiting for. But, whether or not you like the Jubilee moments or not, it's like at least she's, like, doing more
there,
than just, like,
yeah,
whining this season, you know what
yeah.
I mean?
Hmm.
I looked into the Archon character, and what actually in the comics, the 2 Avengers that actually help him save his planet are actually Thor and Iron Man, fun
Mm,
fact. Um, and then we move on to episode 5. This one's called The Fifth Horseman. Oh, by the way, episodes 3 and 4, Stormfront, were originally episodes 7 and 8 of season 5. See, there were originally 14 episodes of season 5. So that was
Yeah.
originally 7 and 8. This next episode, The Fifth Horseman, was originally episode 10. And this episode's all about the reincarnation of Apocalypse, which ends up amounting to nothing
Right.
because the season ends and it's like Apocalypse is not involved at all, which is why we get to the end of the season and I was like, season 4 would have been a much stronger and impactful like series finale. Like the ending of season 4 with that big
Yeah. It was
four-parter
supposed to be.
revolving around.
Yeah.
So much better.
It
It
was
just made me
totally supposed to be. Yeah.
yeah, made me appreciate it so much more. And so this is like Fabian Cortez is back trying to reincarnate Apocalypse. They need like a vessel for Apocalypse to inhabit to like come back from like the axis of time or free floating in space wherever he is. And the only redeeming thing about this episode was that we got Caliban, who seemingly knows Jubilee. They have like a past relationship where they kind of like knew each other from something. They never really explain it. I was starting to question myself and was like, oh, has Caliban always just been one of the Morlocks and that's
Right.
how they know each other? But because that's what he is in the comics, is that Callisto uses Caliban's mutant tracking ability so that they can find different like kind of outcasty mutants to come live with them in the Morlocks. And actually, fun fact about Caliban was that Callisto was the one who gave Caliban his name, and she named him after the character in William Shakespeare's The Tempest, because Caliban in The Tempest is supposed to be this like grimy little guy, so she named him after that. But we did get this Caliban reveal where he ends up saving Jubilee and Hank, and they end up helping each other by the end of this episode. And Apocalypse enters Fabian Cortez's body. But again, it means nothing. So don't
Right.
think we're going to be talking about this guy for the rest of the season because we don't. The next episode 6, is another Jubilee centered episode. Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, where for some reason she's giving a tour to a group of children of the caves underneath the school. Why she's not just showing them around the school itself, I'm not sure. But they're exploring the caves, and little by little, the deeper they get into the caves, the more of the exits start to crumble around them. So they're having less and less ways of being able to leave. So to distract the children, she tells them this made up story she has about her being this like Robin Hood type character who saves people and teams up with like like Logan, who's a troll, and Gambit, who's like this criminal on the run. Yeah, it was very much just one of those filler episodes that are
Yeah,
more for entertainment rather than
yeah.
any plot
Yeah.
moving anything.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is like I really
Yeah.
forget like the school element of it is very like this series hasn't really felt like, because those you watch those original movies and the school aspect is still like pretty prominent,
Right.
whereas you almost forget that it's technically a school, right? The
Mhm.
whole time. Is that true?
Because it's a school full of teachers that don't have any students. Like their one student is Jubilee. And they don't even really teach
Right.
her anything. They're just like, "Hey, wait until you're older and then we'll explain it to you." It's like when in the movies, you're right, Dill. It's like it's all about the school is filled with students at some
Right.
point, and
And
they're
I think that
and
might have been what this episode was trying to attempt, but it's also like they're very
but then
small children, you know.
yeah, and then at the end of the day, they all get on the bus anyway and go home. Like in the
Mhm,
movies, like the children like live there. And
mhm,
so maybe this is way before. I feel like the school just didn't have like a good PR team, so they didn't know how to like advertise it. So
maybe.
they didn't have any students. Um the next episode 7, is a Logan and Captain America episode where they take on Red Skull.
Mm.
Um and yeah.
I mean, I was very excited because it was Cap
Right,
teaming. Like I think it would, yeah, and that's what kind of goes back to my original concept of like the ideas for all these episodes are good ideas. Like
right.
cool, like the Jubilee one. Going back for a second, it's like there was an episode of Avatar: Last Airbender where they go see a play, and it's like, and it
Mhm.
reenacts their whole, like, that could have been a fun experience. Like, maybe make the fairy tale, like, maybe tell stories from older seasons. This is the end of the show. Maybe take that opportunity, but they don't do that. And here again,
Right.
it's like a cool idea, like X-Men and or I guess Wolverine and Captain America. It's not X-Men and Avengers, it's one and one. But
Yeah.
also the animation sucks on the Red Skull, and like it's one of those things
Mhm.
where I'm just like, ugh. It was like, it could have been good. Like if this were like a 3 or 4 parter and they really fleshed it out, I think it would have been really
Yeah.
cool. But um, yeah, I mean, it also what's his name, Andre Cocteau. Yeah, like
The
they make it more about him at the end than in Cap or Red Skull
right.
or everything else. So yeah,
Right. And it just like at the end of the day, this whole season just feels so random. Like every single storyline is so random that I'm like, why do I care about it? If it's not tying into something that happened before or is like teasing something that's going to happen next, excuse me, why, why do I care?
right.
Um, Anyway, so very cool to see Captain America though in the OG gear. That was very fun, and it was interesting to think of like what those two would be like actually teaming up, if they would like actually get along or not. Who knows? Um, but this brings us to episode 8, Hidden Agendas. This was like an episode that would have really felt like it should be more like season 1, season 2, where they kind of just have to go to like one specific town to help one specific mutant. The mutant in this episode is Cannonball. His name is Sam Guthrie, who ends up saving a bunch of coal mine workers in a coal mine, but the town figures out that he's a mutant and obviously turns on him. So the Avengers, oh my god, the X-Men go in to save him pretty much. Uh, but yeah, it just felt like one of those plot lines where it's like, oh, well, we like a small town kid isn't getting accepted for who he is. And it just feels like after the the vastness of the ending of season 4, plot lines like this feel like so trivial and so beyond what they get called to do at this point. You know what I
Yeah, I agree.
mean?
Yeah, I'm reading my notes for this episode, and I'm reading them, and I'm not comprehending the episode that I watched. Like I'm like, what was this? Because I think it
Yeah.
is kind of very generic and forgettable in that way. I'm like, I know
Yeah.
Cannonball, I can visualize him, but I'm like, I'm reading these notes that I'm taking, and I'm like, I don't this episode I don't remember watching it. So I think that's like a problem
Yeah.
because I clearly did because I'm writing it down, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan, I guess.
And so now we move on to our, what's it called? Penultimate.
Penultimate episode of the series, because this is a perfect time to do a whole fleshed out backstory for one of our main villains. That's the
Right.
perfect time, right before the series wraps up. Yeah.
Exactly. And right before we never see this villain again anyway. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
No, very, very
Um
important to set the groundwork for nothing.
So we get a backstory on Sinister and why he became and how he became Mr. Sinister was basically because he was looking for a cure for his wife who was sick with this crazy disease. So he's experimenting on mutants to try to like make her cells mutate into like healthy cells. He obviously does some experimenting on himself, which is how he kind of like turns himself into a mutant. Also Charles Darwin is there, who's just like trying to preach about like mutation and like adaptation and all of that.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Oh, but I have some real mutant people right here." And Charles Darwin is like, "Ah, quackery," or like whatever he
Yeah.
says.
Quackery.
And yeah. I mean, I would have loved to get this episode earlier
Right.
on in the series.
Yeah.
Like when we first got into like the first episode we got with Mr. Sinister, if this was the episode that followed it and we kind of like learned like how and why he became, and then it like and then I like looked deeper into like obviously I looked him up in the encyclopedia and it says everything about like how he wanted Jean and Cyclops to make a baby. Then he started experimenting with inhumans and mutant genes, and he tried to make like he was just trying to make like basically the strongest people he could. And I feel like after all of that episode where he does do that in the series, if we got his backstory, it would have been like it would just made more
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I feel
And
like
it
almost some of these episodes feel like they belong in other episodes arcs and maybe like a 2 or 3 parter,
mhm,
or they feel like they could be expanded upon in like a 2 or 3 parter, because we look at like the Storm episode this season and it's like it's an interesting concept, but it's a two-parter. That one doesn't need to be a two-parter.
mhm,
It's weird what they decide to make longer, elongated, shorten, and this storyline I feel like could have been either elongated and put earlier in the series or attached to, like you said, one of those prior storylines with Sinister. I don't know. I mean, like, just throwing all this mythology at us all at once right before the ending. I mean, I think it makes the
yeah,
stakes so much less. And I know we have X-Men 97 coming, but until 2 years ago, everyone thought this was the last season. So it's like you can't make an
mhm,
excuse that, oh yeah, in 40 years we'll revive it. Like that's not gonna happen,
right,
you know? And they might not even touch on this in X-Men 97. I've heard X-Men 97 is great, but that doesn't mean it needs to pick up all the loose threads of five. It could
right.
just spread its
No,
wings on its own, you know?
if
And I'm so
if
excited
they're
for it. I'm so excited for it.
yeah, I'm like, if they're smart, they'll just like pretend season 5 never happened. Like, there's a joke in the Community fandom where like season 4 of the show, the sitcom Community, gets so whack that the fandom and like even the writers themselves refer to it as like the gas leak year, where there was a gas leak in the community college, and that's why all the storylines and characters like made no sense. And I feel like that's what this is for this show. Like, this is the gas leak year that like no one
Wait,
should talk
what show
about.
is that? What show is that you're talking about?
Community.
Oh, okay.
Community
I've never seen it.
with Allison Brie
No,
and
I
Joel
know the show.
McHale.
I
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
watch it. I've never seen
No,
it.
yeah, it's really, really funny. The first 3 seasons are, like, perfect, and then season 4
Mhm.
happens, it gets kinda wonky, and then 5 and 6, like, I didn't even really watch. But
It's actually
anyway.
funny because that's kinda like Buffy too. It's like season 4 is where it's like, eh.
Oh,
But
yes.
it's where they decide to go from high school to now her college years, and I feel like that jump is always tough. Glee does it
Yes.
too. Like, every time it
Yup.
jumps from high school to college, the only show that I think is successfully done it is, like, Degrassi, because you still have kids at high school. It's, like,
Mhm.
only a quarter of the kids are moving up. I think that show's
Mhm.
a genius show. The more and more I talk about Degrassi on the channel, the more I wanna just, like, do a deep dive review series rewatch of Degrassi.
I think I'm
Um
gonna have to watch Degrassi now, Dill. You talk about it so
Love
highly.
Degrassi. I know, I talk about it a lot, especially recently. I don't know. It's because I
Yeah.
watched an episode on TV just because it was on, and now I'm just like, yeah. Anyway, let's get
Memories.
to this finale, Kels. Let's finish
So
it up, which I think is the strongest episode of the series, just because of the final moments. Like, I think it's a nice ending if you're gonna end it. You know?
right. And so episode 10, graduation day, this was still the season, even though it's only episode 10, this was still considered the series finale in the original season 5. And this revolves around Professor X and how someone made an attempt on his life. And so he kind of spends the episode pretty much like dying, and the X-Men all around him are preparing for his death. Um, and so they're like, we'll call Lalandra. She'll know what to do, but it'll take her 9 months to even get here. And so they have this like beautiful moment where they kind of have this like send off for him. And he's like, oh, perfect. Like, I'm glad you're all here just so I can say goodbye. And he really leaves them with like such like great words of wisdom for everyone.
Yeah.
I would have wrote down every single quote,
Well,
but
my
the
favorite one is he looks at Wolverine. He goes, "Wolverine, loner." Like, he says, and then proceeds to talk about it. But at first, I thought he said Logan, but then I was like, that wasn't Logan. I rewinded.
loner.
He goes, "Loner." I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was funny. No, yeah, like, my favorite is Rogues, where it's like
Yes.
you, thee who cannot touch not cannot touch everyone. Look around, you've touched us all. Like,
Yes.
ah, like that
Yes.
kid is so good. That's so
That's what
fucking
I was
good.
gonna talk about, because
Yeah.
that's really the one that was the most memorable one in my eyes.
Yeah, or
Um,
like Jubilee or the future, and like there's so many
yeah.
great. The only thing I didn't like was that, like, he doesn't give one to Beast or Cyclops. They have to walk up to him to get theirs.
Right.
Like, he's going around the
Right.
room, and then he like holds Rogue's hand. He's like, or Jean's hand. He's like,
Jeans.
this is the end. And then Beast comes up to him, and then he's like, oh yeah. And
He's
then
like,
Silent,
"Anything I can do for
yeah.
you? No
Then
words of wisdom for
Scott
me?"
comes up, and then he has, yeah. But the one thing I hate about this is that because of the animation style, the reactions are very odd. Like when Jean gets hers,
Yes.
she's just kind of like,
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah,
just kind
yeah.
of freezes.
Wait,
Um,
I thought the same thing when, okay, so after they make an attempt on his life, like, the other mutants, the mutants that are, like, living under with, like, Magneto are like, "Alright, this is our chance now, like, they're gonna
mhm,
kill us." Like,
yeah,
they went after Charles Xavier, like, that's not gonna they're going after anyone, like, this is our chance to, like, revolt. And when Magneto was making his speech that was like, "All right, meet children, our time has come. Let's go attack." They were all like reacting as if he was disagreeing with them. They were all like what is he even saying? When it's like this is what they want him to say. So
yeah.
the reaction should have been more like, "Yeah, like we're with him," but they were all like,
Yeah, it was basically like, "You have less time to make this, so just recycle a reaction." This is the
"Right.
only reaction they had. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
do like that final moment. And also I like how they involve Magneto in it. We didn't really talk about it, but, like, the idea that he has to
Yeah.
kinda give him that last breath, is
Mhm.
really important, I think, in kind of wrapping up their storyline. I think, honestly, this one episode does a really good job wrapping it up that the rest of the season doesn't.
Right.
And even at the end where it's like, oh, he's still alive, but he's not. Like his soul lives on,
Right.
but his body's not. Like I think that's a good enough way to like say he's dead, but also open the door so if you are to make a revival series 3 decades later on Disney Plus, you can now incorporate either the spirit or ghost of Xavier in some way. I haven't watched it yet, so like I don't know if they even try to incorporate it or if he comes back full fledged or if he's just not in it at all and they really
Right.
want to commit to it. The one thing Marvel has trouble doing is committing to death, but I'm interested to see if they do in this case because it's a little bit more Marvel adjacent, but
Yeah.
or MCU adjacent at least.
Honestly, for me, Jill, this ending really just caught me off guard. Like you said, it was really, really rush. And I just felt like if they had, like, if the underlining theme of the series was kind of building to a Professor X death, I think it would have been like more, like, it would have stuck the landing a little bit better. But honestly, like he has this beautiful send off where he like says something to all of his X-Men. He's like ready to go. And then Lalandra shows up and he's like, "Oh, your human medicine won't work, but like something alien like I can do for him will like work." And then I was like, "Oh, so they're just going to after all of that like he's just still
Yeah,
alive." But I guess he's like he said he's like, "Oh, maybe not in body form, but like in mind form, which is maybe how it was always supposed to be." But I'm like, again, this means nothing because it's the last episode anyway. So like, why do I
yeah.
care?
Yeah.
Um,
I will say though, yeah, I'm very excited for 97 regardless, just because
mhm.
I know they really wanted to fix the mistake of season 5. You know, I heard the animation's better. I heard they just want to focus on making it more of an epic story, regardless of whether or not we get another season of that or if that's it. So I'm very excited, and that'll be next week's episode is talking about that.
Yeah.
But do we want to give out any MVMs or LVMs? It's hard because I feel like there's no one singular standout to me. You know?
Yeah, it was certainly hard for me to think of like a most valuable mutant because to me they were all pretty not valuable this
Mhm.
season. Not their fault, but just like how it happened. I did something a little crazy and I gave the most about the MVM to Jubilee
Me
just
too.
because
Me
this was the
too.
most we had seen her
Yeah, because
and
they
it was
actually
the most
utilize her, yeah.
useful. Yeah, she was.
Yeah, it
And then
almost
my
feels
L
like wait, hold on, really quick
No,
on
go
Jubilee.
ahead.
It feels like they almost were like, "How do we wrap up the series?" Well, it opened with, like, Jubilee being our audience surrogate, so yeah, let's, like, make her a big focus again. It just felt so random, but I did
Yeah.
give her the MVM because she has the most to do. Yeah, I agree.
And so my LVM is unfortunately Rogue just because she did jack shit this entire season. I don't she had like 2 lines I think the entire 10 episodes.
Yeah, I really didn't know who to put as my LVM. I kinda put Storm because I think her episode is a little weaker, but I don't blame her. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe Professor X because he dies. Well, and it's like no one else has.
That
It's
weak
her
old
more
man fucking
no,
dying. Who does
no,
he
but
think he is?
no,
Least
just
valuable.
because he's the least valuable now because he's dead. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I guess.
I think everyone gets a collective least valuable. I guess. So why don't we say that? Just because
Okay.
I really except for you know what Magneto does not because Magneto I think you know had a good arc at the end, but
Yeah.
everyone else yeah it's tough. Yeah, I guess Rogue
Um
or Gambit or you know just I don't know.
Yeah, so the original, like I said, the original season 5 is 14 episodes, and then the 4 other episodes that were in the original airing of season 5 was A Deal with the Devil, the Omega Red episode in the submarine, No Mutant is an Island, which is the
Scott
um
processing Jean's
s-
death,
yes. And
which makes no
the
sense.
long shot episode where it's Mojo Vision Part 2,
Yeah, your favorite.
and Bloodlines, the episode with Kurt and Rogue, which I guess would have been Rogue's like big moment in this season had it been with this season on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But again, I'm like thinking about where these 4 episodes would fall in, and I think it would just make this season feel more chaotic and random. So I'm almost kind of happy with the way that Disney Plus kind of like,
Well, because that
divvied
was
them up.
the intended order. Yeah. So I don't know. It's so the order of episodes just gave me a headache after season 2
Yeah.
that I was just ready for it to be over for that sake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're finally moving on. We're finally to
Yes.
X-Men 97, and then we'll be done kind of with X-Men for a little while until, well, I guess Deadpool's coming out, so maybe not. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts though on this original series as a whole? The five seasons. Now that we're looking at that as its own, because 97 is its own thing. It is branded as X-Men 97, not X-Men the animated series. So what did you think of X-Men the animated series? It's our first like big series rewatch that we finished, right? Because we never
All in
finished
all,
Daredevil. We still need to do
no.
that.
No, we still do. And we have to hit all those other Netflix shows as well. But all in all, Jill, I'm really not going to let season 5 kind of really taint my view of it. Like, I really was impressed with this series, like through and through. Like, there's some obvious lows, but some really, really good highs and some really great life lessons. Some really great characters and story building. Oh, also Morph came back at the end of the last episode, which I forgot to bring
Yeah.
up, but he was kind of a key uh player in that one, which is
Mm-hmm.
cool to like have them come back full circle as well.
Yeah, give the team some morale by trying to be the dead guy or the guy who's
Yeah.
dying. Yeah. And I like how
And
now Morph is like part of the team again, so we could kick off 97 and it's like not like a
exactly.
big idea of trying to get them back.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a really, really good time watching this series, and I'm just excited. It honestly makes me think that like the MCU should just like put all of their eggs in the X-Men basket and not even like really touch anything Avengers wise just until everything kind of like blows over, because everyone is really excited about X-Men 97, and now that we're getting like the character of Binary, played by Lashana Lynch, and we got Kelsey Grammer's Beast at the end of the Marvels. Like, I think that if they just like go into like an X-Men direction, especially with Deadpool 3 coming out and everything, like
Yeah, I wonder
this
if
could
Deadpool
honestly
3
revamp the
Yeah, I wonder if Deadpool 3 is
MCU.
gonna be the thing that gets us rolling with that. I
Mhm.
really because yeah, we've even admitted that the MCU is getting stale, and we're just kind of not
Mhm.
necessarily as enthusiastic as we used to be. There are movies that obviously are exceptions, like Guardians 3 was a big one that we both loved, but it's like that felt like the end of a Guardians franchise, not part of the MCU. Like the
Right.
MCU at large has just been feeling very, you know. So
Mhm.
I'm really hoping, and I've been worried, since the trailers came out with Deadpool and Wolverine. So I hope they stick the landing with it. I hope there's more than just a joke about Disney and Fox. Like I hope that's not the only joke and the whole
Right.
joke, nothing but the joke. So help you God. But yeah, I'm excited, but very much cautious about the future of Marvel. But I do think X-Men, this being a success, or 97 being a success, and now like we're
Yeah.
watching through all the old ones, like I think that's a good sign that could be where they want to go. I did want to bring up some, I know we forgot to do news, but I do have some Fantastic Four casting news.
Incredible. Or fantastic,
I
I
was going to
should
say
say.
the Incredibles ripped off Fantastic Four, and did it in a much better way.
Ooh.
All right, here we go. Wait, where did it go? Oh, shoot, I just had it up. Okay. Natasha Lyonne has been cast in Fantastic Four in an undisclosed role. Love her. Are
Love
you
it.
familiar with her?
Oh, love
Yes.
Natasha
Okay.
Lyonne.
I figured you did. And then the one I'm most excited for, John Malkovich is joining Fantastic Four. He has been cast. And then Paul Walter Hauser has been cast in the Fantastic Four. And then the last, let me just make sure I have everyone. Vanessa Kirby, Ralph Ineson as Galactus. It was like the big casting that came out. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily know who Ralph Ineson is, but if you've seen any of Robert Eggers' movies, The Witch, or what's the other one he did, The Northman, or if you've seen The Green Knight or The First Omen, he's in a lot of those. He's got like a very deep Scottish voice, but I don't know if he's going to do that voice. But this is the guy playing Galactus, so I'm very excited
Oh,
for Ralph Ineson. If you like look him up, you might recognize him. Like
yeah,
if you
yeah,
listen
yeah.
to him speak, especially because he has just one of the best speaking voices. But the Fantastic Four cast is like kind of shaping up, which is very exciting to see. Kels, in addition to the four that we already know are going to be in it.
Yes.
Any thoughts on all that casting stuff right now?
This is just another project that I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to see what Natasha Lyonne's gonna bring to the table in this. She's so funny.
Hmm.
But right, like everything, like all of their little offshoots that they're doing that aren't Avengers specific, I think are going to be their strongest projects, and I think they should be the things that get the time and attention because obviously like the main like Avengers storylines have just not been landing. And ever
Yeah,
since, the getting ring of the character of Kang, like that's going to be a huge change moving forward.
yeah,
And so since I think they're probably feeling a little lost and confused as much as the fandom is right now, they should probably just really work on bettering the different
yeah.
facets.
And I will say, I forgot to also mention Julia Garner also cast as the Silver Surfer. That was the big one that I was excited, that was most perplexed by.
Oh
So she
wow.
will she will be playing the Silver Surfer, Julia Garner from Ozark, and from The Assistant, and there was another show on Netflix that she had just done. I forget the name of it, but
The
um,
Anne one?
yeah, yeah. So that's the Fantastic Four news. No other real
Interesting.
big Marvel news from what I remember. I mean, we're getting Deadpool, Wolverine trailers and TV spin-offs and stuff. Like I was in the theater for Furiosa and they did a second Deadpool trailer where they were just like turn off your phones, which was kind of dumb. First off, just gotta say, did you see the Fall Guy?
No.
Right before the Fall Guy, there's like one of those like turn off your phone bits, but it's Ryan Gosling and the director texting, and they're basically like, well, if you like, if you're gonna text, at least like try to hide it. Like all these things where it's like, no, like
Mm.
you could take pictures, just like make sure it's very subtle. I'm like, no, it's not subtle. Just put away your phone. I don't know why they're like
Yeah,
trying to
what?
find these loop. I think it was trying to be a funny bit, but it was not funny.
Mm.
Anyway, you gotta run, I gotta run. This was an impromptu record for both of us because I kind of woke up, saw my phone, and went, oh, cool, let's record at 11. But very happy to do this. Very fun.
Yes.
I'm very happy we watched the show, and now we can watch X-Men '97 for next week. Anything else, Kelsey, from you?
No, just, like and subscribe and
Love you.
Okay,
I
yes.
love you.
You, all of us, yeah, she's talking to all of you watching.
Yes.
You too, Miss Minutes. Even what they savage your character, we still love you, Miss Minutes. All
Hey,
right, guys.
y'all.
Hey, y'all. All right, have a good one, guys. See-